Happy New Year, team. I hope everybody took advantage of your well-deserved break there. Hopefully, parents and students weren't bugging you too bad. Or you got to hide at least, even if they were trying. Yeah, give us one more minute. And for whoever joined us before the break, right? I kind of teased the fact that we would talk a little bit about, or I guess as much as you guys want, but we'll talk about the FAFSA today, but then 2 weeks from today, we're going to kind of go through it in more of a, I don't want to say line by line capacity, but actually try to be in there. I don't know if any of you guys have experienced yet, but as we expected and as it's done for several years since, for the most part, it's crashing every second. So it's been very hard to get in. Some people have submitted successfully, but as expected, um, it's just been really difficult to even get in there. And what I'll talk about is the fact that even forget if the site's kicking you off and there's too many people trying to get in at once, but kind of our I don't want to say worst fears is over dramatic, but in terms of what they were teasing with what the challenges would be for actually being able to access and submit the form, those are being realized. And so what we feared was looking like it would be on the surface in terms of again being able to get in the FAFSA has been harder than it's ever been. So yes, the form is easier. Once you're in there, the form is in fact as advertised on that sense and easier to um complete, but it's a freaking nightmare to get in. And I'll talk about that in a minute. I got ahead of myself. So for those of you that are new, my name is Matt Carpenter. I'm one of the founders at College Aid Pro. Happy New Year. Welcome. For those of you that are, and I see some familiar names and some new names on here. Welcome back for our OGs here. And I think we there's a few things that we do in our space, right? But largely we're trying to help families and students that are navigating this process. We want to be the go-to resource for all things financial aid and scholarships. And same things for school counselors, right? We partner with a ton of high schools across the country that kind of, I think, consider us a back office of sorts or an extension of their team, specifically when it comes to financial aid and scholarships. And there's a few different ways those relationships work. So if you haven't talked to me or talked to us, or we don't work with your school already, please do that. I will let me just grab my link in a second here. So if you want to, so for example, there's a few things that actually I'll share right now. Sorry guys, my head is admittedly swimming today with as we're trying to kind of solve for this FAFSA challenge to put it lightly. It's not it's because again our goal is to try to figure out, all right, this is the best way to navigate a certain thing, and then we can go out, educate everybody on how to do that. We are still working through how are we going to coach this to folks, because it's not crystal clear just yet. We think we're on track. I just got out of a meeting in terms of, kind of walking through, okay, what's best practices here. And then we have another one immediately after this. So I promise you, this is where all our efforts are being spent on how we can advise families and counselors the best ways to navigate this thing. So this is my link. If you want to book a time to talk with me, if we're not working with your school, I'll already do that. And I'm happy to learn about what you guys are doing currently and how we might be able to support you further. Another thing that I want to share is that we have a couple of webinars coming up for families to walk them through the FAFSA. So we have let me just grab these links for you. So we have one of them on next week on January 9th. So it's Tuesday, January 9th at 7 p.m. Let me grab this. Okay, so this is 1/7. I'm putting this in the chat. 1/7 at 7 Eastern time. And then we have 2 more dates in January. Obviously, I know that's pretty short notice. So I'll grab the 2 other dates as well. But yeah, these are presentations where essentially we're going line by line through the FAFSA, but all the way up until like, okay, here's how you create your FSA ID. Here's how you log on. Here's how, make sure you don't put your retirement accounts on when they are asking you about the net worth of your savings and investments. Make sure you don't overvalue your business when they ask about that this year. That was one of the huge changes. Here's who should be the custodial or the one completing the FAFSA if you're a split household family, right? So if you're divorced or separated, that was another massive rule change this year. Who should be the one completing the FAFSA? We'll coach families through that piece to make sure that they're doing that right. And let me make sure this is the right one here. Okay, yeah, this is 1:17 at 7 Eastern time. Right, all the way up to actually submitting this form. So please fire away with any of your questions in the meantime, and I'll just grab this one last date for you all, which is 1/24. Okay, same thing, 7 Eastern time. And these are all just, again, guiding families through how to complete and submit the FAFSA and do it the right way, right? There is absolutely a right way, especially when it comes to things like not including your retirement when they're asking you about your savings and investment. So hopefully those are helpful. I put in the chat those 3 dates that we're doing. Feel free to share them with your families, tune in yourselves, whatever is most helpful. And then again, that first link there is my personal calendar if you want to book some time to chat and see how we might be able to support your school specifically. So here's the kind of back to where we started. The biggest challenge this year and biggest pain in the ass, quite frankly, is that both of when you go to access the FAFSA, both the parents and the students have to be there. They're going to get sent a unique code at basically the same time, and it expires after 10 minutes. And some of the student questions, the parents won't even be able to answer. So for the most part, every single family that wants to complete a FAFSA, they're going to have to pin their kid down to basically be at the computer with them at the same time, right? And in some ways, no big deal. In some ways, pretty big deal, right? I'm even putting myself in my 18-year-old shoes, and I think I would have been tough to track down. Quite frankly, and this just would have been not, and I was just like, all these kids are playing sports, you're in the band, you're doing a million things, and like, what, I have to sit down with you and do the FAFSA with so I think that's just going to be a huge challenge. And again, the fact that some questions, like, the kids are going to have to answer questions that say, do you consent for us to pull your tax information from the IRS website? That's basically this year's version of the IRS data retrieval tool for parents and student. They're going to ask the student to answer their personal financial question. So yes, the parents can be right there to help them with that, obviously, but I imagine most of you guys are hearing this too and being like, yeah, that is going to be a pain, right? We're going to have to, so it's like, yes, the form itself is easier to navigate. Yes, it's way shorter. Basically, you don't have to answer any questions around your financial information. You just have to give them permission to go pull that information from the IRS. That's just a little bit strange, though, in the fact that you don't get to see it at all. Did they pull the right information? Did it go through, right? We know historically that tool, the IRS data retrieval tool, works 80% of the time, right? Last year was a little bit better. It was closer to 85. But at least you got notified right then that if it didn't pull successfully, okay, it didn't pull successfully. So you need to order a tax transcript, okay? And you got notified of that right away. The colleges got notified of that right away. Whereas this year, you don't even have a hint as to did it work, did it not work, right? So we're preemptively just recommending that every family order a tax transcript right? For students and for parents and students if they filed. If they didn't file, it usually makes sense to order a non-tax filer statement. Because if this doesn't work out or you don't want to use the data retrieval tool or whatever, this is what colleges will require in order to make the FAFSA official, right? They're not, so, and this is different than the, it is different than there are some differences from one state to the next. That was a question here. Do some states not use the data retrieval form? But in all states, they're going to ask this question, and this is how they're going to track the income. Can we go? Do we have permission to go track this down? Yeah, and hi Dara. So this is still, believe it or not, unclear. If parents are married, do both parents need an FSA ID? Okay. We know that if they're divorced or separated, split household family, it's only the parent that's completing the FAFSA that needs the FSA ID. It remains unclear if both parents need an FSA ID, and we've seen it even appear to contradict itself in some use cases already in the last couple of days here. But what we're advising just universally, have both parents get an FSA ID, even if they're married and living together. Just have that. Because we had an instance where, again, the FAFSA is admittedly still working through some kinks, right? They are admittedly, this is a soft launch. We are not sending any FAFSAs to any colleges until the end of January, right? They're on record as saying that yet. So they are still working through some kinks. We've had a FAFSA go through for a married family that only one parent had the FSA ID. We had another FAFSA, married family, only had one FSA ID, and they said we can't send it without the other parent's FSA ID. Right. So again, we are seeing contradictions already, but just to kind of cover our bases, our recommendation is have both parents create their FSA ID. And then we will, again, it's there if we need it. Right. And again, whether or not we actually do need it, somewhat TBD, right? And apparently sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And it could be one of these things where for no rhyme or reason, like the data retrieval tool historically, sometimes it would not work without kind of a logical explanation, maybe some type of tech glitch or whatever. Yeah, so another kind of theme here, like we'll put something out later today, probably again later this week at the end of the week, is like the biggest thing we're combating on our end, and maybe you guys are getting a lot of anxious parents as well, is that we're just trying to say, guys, do not worry about it. You're not late. There is no such thing as first come, first serve, right? You're not missing any opportunities. Like for the most part, we're coaching our families like, don't even try to get in this week. Okay. And we even did that before the new FAFSA because it would just crash so consistently the first 7 to 10 days. And we know we're not missing any opportunities. The earliest financially priority deadline is February 1st. And I don't want to speak, I can't speak on obviously on every college's behalf, but every college we've talked to, and there's been a whole bunch, they're like, our deadlines are basically non-existent this year. We're not even getting the FAFSAs at the earliest basically until February 1st, right? So even if you've submitted that thing January 1st, they're not sending any of the information to the schools until February 1st. So, this year more than ever, we're just kind of coaching like, just chill. The system, there's nothing you can do. You're gonna bang your head against the wall if you're trying to log in every second. Just chill out. Let this thing run its course for a week or so. Anyways, we're gonna be communicating constantly on almost a daily basis to kind of give updates of here's what's working, here's what's not, here's the times that have been most accessible, right, in terms of getting in the and having the thing work correctly. But I think that should be your talk track, is like, guys, just don't even worry about it this week. If you want to, if you're one of those parents that's just too, I don't know if neurotic is an unkind word. I don't mean that in a whatever mean-spirited way, but you guys deal with them all the time, so you know who I'm talking about. But do it off hours, stay up till midnight, get up super early, all of these things. So, but again, for anybody that will listen, sit tight. Don't even try to do anything this week. You are missing out on zero. You will not receive less money. You are still very much in this you know pool for of this kind of initial first come first serve pool, so long as you get it in by February 1st at the earliest. And again, I would be shocked if there's any colleges that hold families accountable for deadlines this year. They know what's going on. They're very well versed in what's going on here. So again, I think that's kind of the messaging. Everybody chill, give it another week, slow start to the year, and we'll try to get in there next week. And again, if you're determined, then get in there or attempt to get in there in unorthodox hours. Okay. Yeah, it's not a dumb question, and I'm glad it got asked, which is, how do you order a tax transcript? I'll grab the link right now, because most people confuse this with just thinking it's your tax returns. You have to send them a copy of your tax returns, and that's actually not correct. It's not the 1040 that we all think of, that kind of form where we do our taxes, we get this 1040, we see our names and socials at top, and then kind of a breakdown of our income. That's not it. It's something that you have to order specifically from the IRS, that is basically their report of from kind of the back end of your 2022, the relevant year here, income, right? So anyways, that's not a stupid question at all, and I just put the link in there, and it's a great thing to share with families, to say, hey, you might want to cover your bases here. Lots of funky stuff going on with the new FAFSA this year. It'll make life easier on yourself to have this as kind of a backup in case something wonky happens with your FAFSA, like the income not linking. So great question. Grab that link from the chat. And the other thing, just to, again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, and this is not, I don't have any intel, but a couple of us are thinking this might be the case internally. I have a feeling, given unless we see a sudden change here, that our May 1st kind of universal May 1st deposits are due, drop dead date deadline is either going to get moved back. Right, May 1st is going to become June 1st or whatever, right? Either going to get moved back, or that's going to be a very loosey-goosey deadline, similar to what colleges these deadlines are going to be, right? These colleges say February 1st or February 15th is when the FAFSA is due, and we know they're telling us like that's not really true this year. So we will see. Yeah, so if a parent already has an FSA ID because they used it for their completing their FAFSA, whether that was for another degree or whatever from ages ago, that'll still work, even though you were the student maybe, or this parent was the student in this case, and now they are the parent of the student. That FSAD is still relevant. It'll still work. They don't have to create another one. But good question. It's a tricky one. Yeah, and in the other so I know I shared in the chat here the 3 different presentations that we have coming up in January for parents, walking them through the FAFSA. We're doing one specifically for school counselors 2 weeks from today. Excuse me. Yeah, so 2 weeks from today during this coffee talk, we'll send you a couple notes in the meantime to remind you, but we'll be doing kind of that version of the comprehensive deeper dive into the FAFSA, show you guys what it looks like, show you that experience of what it's like to log in, and the multiple what do they call it? Multiple authentic authenticity, I can never say that word, but you know what I'm saying, where they're gonna have to confirm in a couple different ways, both the student and the parent, in some cases, both parents. But yeah, we'll kind of walk you through the whole thing so you can see it, give kind of best practices. Here's how to answer the questions when they ask you about your assets, when they ask you about your business, which parent in split household families should be completing this, right? And just as a reminder, the new rule is they want the parent that provides the most financial support to the student to be the one that completes the FAFSA, which complete mess, um, but yeah, so in 2 weeks from today, same place, same time, this link, you won't have to re-register. If you're registered, you're automatically registered from 2 weeks, but so 2 weeks from today, that'll be the 17th at 12 Eastern time, at noon Eastern time. Myself and my colleague Peg will be going kind of through blow by blow the entire FAFSA, right? So that presentation is just for you all, just for you school counselors. But we have again, we have dates for parents and students, the 7th, the 17th, and the 24th. And again, I have those links that you can share with your families, if you would like to do that. Okay. Yep. So question here is, I thought that a student could start their FAFSA and then invite their parent, their contributor, or whatever guardian. So if the student was able to complete their part, couldn't the parent just take it from there? This is assuming, of course, that the student is pretty savvy. Yes, that is true. Okay, the link for the 7th. Yeah, the link for 1/7 at 7 Eastern time, I will re-put, is right here. Okay, that is true. So there is a world in which the student can start, and that is one, again, that is absolutely a way this can get done. But again, I just see the messiness of it because it requires parent and the student both dialed in together right there. Okay, I'm going to log in as a student. I'm going to get my code. I'm going to complete my part. Then I'm going to invite my parents. They're going to get their code. Then they're going to log in and take on from there. So that's, and for some families that will be no problem, right? For some families that will be a non-issue. But I've worked with enough family dynamics to know that this is going to be just a meaningful added challenge. I'm sure that you all, some of you are shaking your heads in agreement, I would think. So and I think you can probably also do the math on, well, it's a divorced family. The non-custodial parent is the parent that provides the most financial support, but it's not a nice relationship. It's not an amicable relationship, and they have to be on the same page. And maybe that other parent, obviously, we've fielded a lot of phone calls and emails about this. That parent that has to complete the FAFSA knows that the student lives with their ex. It's not amicable. And they also don't want their ex seeing their financial information. Even if it's not the income, they're going to have to put their assets on there. And how do they know for certain that parent won't see it, right? So that's another dynamic that is just going to be, and is at the moment, very challenging here. So yeah, again, yeah, I mean, the code essentially is just like you do with a lot of things. You're going to, you're logging into an account that you haven't logged into from a new computer, and then they're going to say, is this you? We're going to send a code to your phone number to make sure that this is you. That's kind of how this works. So each student and then the parent needs their FSA ID, right? But that's not good enough to log into the FAFSA, because when you do that, in addition, you're going to be asked to, we're going to send a code somewhere else to your email and or text in real time to double check and make sure that it's you, right? And it's going to expire in 10 minutes. So that's why, again, it's kind of like both the parent and student got to be dialed in at the same time in order to execute this thing. Annoying. FAFSA Simplification Act, just the most ironic name of all time. Yeah, so those are kind of the headlines, but it's just like the talk track is like everybody chill. You don't have to get in there right away. There's no advantage to getting in there early. Let the system work out some of these initial kinks. Reasonable expectation, it'll get a little bit easier. I don't think they're going to walk back this kind of trickier way to get in there, at least not this year. So that's just going to be a annoying reality that we all got to deal with here. But don't make it hard on yourselves by trying to get in there now. And even if everybody's there, everybody's sitting in front of the computer, it's just impossible to get on because the site is consistently crashing. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Anne Marie. I misspoke. The webinar for next week it's January 9th at 7 Eastern time, not January 7th. So sorry about that. Thank you, Anne Marie. Yeah, we're not going to be out there on a Sunday evening. So thanks, Anne Marie, for correcting me there. Yeah, so we're just kind of preaching patience, right? And we're in there all day, every day, just kind of continuing to learn in real time here. We'll continue to educate everybody as we get more information. And again, starting next Tuesday, the 9th, not the 7th, Tuesday, the 9th at 7 p.m. That will be our first webinar to parents. And then to you all, we'll be doing one 2 weeks from today, and then another one that night, right? So on the 17th, we'll have one during the day for school counselors at 12 Eastern time, 7 Eastern time for parents, and then again the following week for parents. So, but yeah, those are the headlines, and happy to chill out and take a few more questions here. And it can be anything. It doesn't just have to be FAFSA related, but obviously that's I think that's what's front of mind for most folks. I'll just reshare my link here. Yeah, and somebody just asked, but I'm just repopping in my link. That's just if you want to connect with myself to learn how we might be able to support your office, your school. That's the best place to do it. Yeah, now the FAFSA changes, they don't, the question is, does the new FAFSA changes have any effect on the value of a parent's home? No, you're still not going to be reporting any the value or equity of your primary residence on the FAFSA, right? So that has not changed. That remains the same. You still will be expected to report any equity you have in other real estate, right? But not your primary residence. Your primary residence, you're only reporting on the CSS profile. But yes, not on the FAFSA, same as it's been historically. Yeah, in terms of families living overseas, right? Not enough data to report back whether there's anything different than folks doing it here in the States. We haven't had issues for families that have put stuff in manually, so I think that would be an indication that shouldn't be a challenge, right? Again, I think that right now, internationally, domestically, everybody's having issues, even getting in there and being able to hit send on all this. So I don't think it's necessarily better or worse. Yeah, if a parent did not file tax returns, right, and this is not terribly uncommon, they're just going to indicate that, right? Our parents did not file tax returns, and what you need to expect is that these colleges will then ask you for what's called a non-tax filer statement. Again, this is something that they're going to get from the IRS website that basically the colleges are going to say, well, we're not just going to take you at face value that you didn't file taxes. So you need to get this form from the IRS where the IRS confirms, yes, this family did in fact not file taxes. Uh, yeah, so hopefully that answers your question, Nancy. Yeah, and then in terms of yes, correct in that there's no changes to multiple students in colleges at the same time, right? In terms of the new FAFSA rule, that it has in fact gone through. So now there will not be in the formula for calculating a student's SAI, right? Student aid index, i.e. financial aid eligibility. They're no longer giving you a break if you have more than one kid in school at once, right? So terrible change for lots of families. Um, Probably worth noting that most schools that use the institutional methodology, so most CSS profile schools, are still recognizing the fact that families have more than one kid in school at once, right? There's still some colleges that haven't made a decision yet, but kind of top down, your most competitive colleges, whatever you want to call them, the um, you know the Ivy Leagues, the Stanfords, MITs of the world, they're still going to have the sibling discount in effect. So even though the Department of Education, FAFSA, has kind of instituted this rule, which is going to impact just about every or the vast majority of FAFSA only schools, it's less likely to have an impact at schools that require the CSS profile, institutional methodology schools. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. I obviously can't say for certain if create an FSA ID, there are certain boxes you got to check in terms of either being a U.S. citizen or green card holder, right? It becomes a lot more complex for families that don't have citizenship. Don't have a green card or undocumented, right? It's not automatic by any stretch that they'll be able to create an FSA ID. In terms of a family who could not access the website to set up their FSA ID, I know some families have had trouble getting that's been crashing as well. So I don't know if it was just tied to that or had something to do with the fact that they're international families. I couldn't say for certain. That's great. Great success story there. Undocumented parent got their FSA ID. Love hearing that. I'll just sit tight, see if there's any more questions, and then otherwise I'll cut us loose. And yeah, just keep paying attention, guys. I mean, we're trying to we know this is top of mind for everybody, so we're all over it. We got lots of folks that are living and breathing in these FAFSAs all day, every day. So we can try to account for just about any situation you might imagine and try to help folks get this baby across the finish line. But right now it's like everybody chill. Let's let let knuckleheads like us worry about this. Let us bang our heads against the wall. So we can we can have people have a smoother experience here. And we're losing nothing by waiting a week or two or whatever. Absolutely nothing. All right, team, I'll give it a going once, going twice. And then otherwise, welcome back. Happy New Year. Hopefully it's a tough week back, man. It's a tough week. Um, but here we are. We'll be back in the swing of things in no time. But yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. Reach out to us, right? We have and here's our dedicated email too, which we try to be this is just for school counselors. And we try to be very responsive with this, right? We got multiple eyeballs on it, but counselor@collegeaidpro.com. That's just for school counselors. Consider that your bat line, hotline, whatever you want to call it. We'll try to get back to you very quickly or as quick as we can with any questions you might have. All right, thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.